Hey guys, thanks for checking out this video. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. And today, this is going to be my PVE tier list. I'm mainly talking story mode and tower. So, I'm going to go through each of the cookies, put them in the tier rankings. Some are going to be controversial, some are going to be obvious. I'm not going to spend too much time on each cookie. Let's get going. Hollyberry, SS tier, the best tank of the game. Tanky plus is able to absorb damage from the rest of your team, keep them alive longer. Easy. Pure vanilla cookie, heal and shield makes Pure Vanilla Cookie the best healer in the game. That 3-second shield is going to protect you from mobs, going to protect you from boss fights. Hands down, Pure Vanilla Cookie, best healer in the game. Sea Fairy, story mode became significantly easier when Sea Fairy came in the game. You get that 3-second stun plus massive damage from Sea Fairy. Sea Fairy is by far the best damage dealing cookie because of that 3-second stun. Almond's going to go S tier. Almond is able to use comps like Ryman to dish out a lot of damages, or you can use Almond and Black Raisin and do a ton of damage on certain levels where there's mobs. That's why Almond is S tier. C tier, nope. Cream Puff Cookie, you're getting a little bit of healing, a little bit of attack, but it's just a little bit of both. And then we have Dark Choco. Dark Choco is excellent against bosses. You get that minus 20% damage, defense. So you're reducing the boss's defense by 20%, allowing your Vamp, allowing your Sorbet Shark, your Rye to hit much, much harder. And without Dark Choco, some of these boss fights are near impossible. Black Raisin, S tier, because Black Raisin, she can do a lot of damage when there's a column of enemies. Use a cookie like Espresso to group the enemies, and Black Raisin hits even more enemies and can do massive damage. Espresso is A tier. Espresso used to be one of the best cookies in the game by far, but now that damage is just not high enough. Though Espresso's skill of being able to group the enemies together is nice when combined with some cookies like Black Raisin, like I just mentioned. Fig Cookie is B tier because Fig Cookie just does not do enough damage, but that minus 25% attack on some mobs might keep your team alive. That's why I put Fig in B tier, even though the damage is just not there. I got Herb Cookie in A tier just because Herb Cookie is not one of the S tier healers in my opinion, and definitely not at the level of Pure Vanilla to be put in SS tier. So A tier kind of by default. Still a very good healer. Kumio in story mode, just an average tank. Below average, doesn't do much special. Latte, I'm going to put in A tier. Latte does pretty good damage. Also has that silence ability to keep some of the enemies from using their skill. Latte is right there, kind of on that border between A tier and S tier, honestly. Licorice, we got to put in SS tier. Licorice has got that plus 20% defense for the entire team. Plus, puts those 3 minions out front to tank hits to help your tank. If you're running single tank, you got single tank plus Licorice putting the 3 minions out front. Helps your frontline take last longer. Also, why Licorice is slightly above Pumpkin Pie in story mode, my opinion is you get that plus 20% for that whole entire team defense, where if you're getting hit by those long range bombers that avoid your frontline tank and are hitting your backline healer and long distance range fighters, right? They're taking damage, but that plus 20% boost in defense from Licorice is helping them stay alive a little bit longer. Madeline Cookie, a decent hitter, especially when paired with Lilac Cookie and kind of a speed comp. That's why Madeline Cookie's in A, because it has to be paired with Lilac Cookie in that speed comp that you use in story mode. Sometimes when you want to clear out stages a little bit faster, you want to do a little more damage, but doesn't offer you any defensive versatility. Mango Cookie, A tier. I'd actually say Mango Cookie is a little bit above Espresso because, in my opinion, Mango Cookie does a little bit more damage. Also pushes back those mobs, so those mobs take a little bit longer to hit your frontline tanks because when Mango uses that skill, it does have that pushback effect, which is nice. Milk Cookie is a not so great tank just because Milk Cookie's not tanky enough, right? So Milk Cookie does absorb part of the damage that your team gets hit by, but Milk Cookie will also die fast because it just doesn't have the tanky stats that a cookie like Hollyberry does. Mint Cookie and Parfait, S tier. These are the second and third best cookies healer wise, in my opinion. Mint Cookie gives you that attack speed boost. Parfait gives you that debuff resist boost. Healing wise, there's a difference between them. Mint Cookie is going to give you that burst damage, that instant heal. A good chunk of your life will be healed, and it's a decent amount. Mint's pretty good, is a pretty good healer. Parfait is going to heal you over time, over several ticks, but Parfait is an excellent healer, can heal as much as Pure Vanilla Cookie. It's just a slow roll over time. I'd say they're both very good, and you use them depending on what comp you're running. If you're running more of a speed comp and you want to get through a level fast, use mint, use lilac cookie. You can do massive damage. If you're just trying to stay alive as long as possible, especially against some bosses, use parfait cookie. Pastry's an A, just because pastry doesn't do that much damage without lilac, so it depends on a very specific composition. Poison mushroom is B tier, just because poison mushroom absolutely crushes it and does huge damage against boss fights, and then is absolutely not used in any other story mode or tower, right? Boss fights, you'll use poison mushroom. Otherwise, poison mushroom, like, where are you? Oh, I forgot about you. Okay. Pomegranate, A tier, you get that attack buff of plus 20% plus a little bit of healing. Pretty decent if you level up Pomegranate, because that healing as a secondary healer is nice bonus to that plus 20% attack bonus. Yam Cookie's kind of boring in story mode. You get that frontline area effect attack, but you don't get any defensive abilities from Yam. Raspberry, I'm going to put at A tier because I did use Raspberry to beat a lot of World 11. Raspberry does have that ability, especially if you're going against like the Wizard in World 1123, where there's a Wizard semi-boss that does massive amounts of damage. Raspberry has that ability to hit the highest attack damage dealer, minus 40% on their attack, keep your team alive. There's a lot of backline enemies or mini bosses that do massive damage that when you use Raspberry reduces that attack and really keeps your team alive. Plus you're going full attack combos and substats of damage resist. You're also going to have Raspberry hit pretty hard on single targets. Here's my slightly controversial opinion. Red Velvet in SS tier for story mode. Here's why. If you're 5 stars, level 60, whale toppings, you can just roll through story mode. You don't need Red Velvet ever. But if you're just like 2 stars, you got some level 55 characters, you're going to encounter some levels where they're going to have throwers from the back line, long range bombers that just throw these bombs and just destroy your enemy. I mean, destroy your cookies, do huge damage. You got Red Velvet on your team. Red Velvet's going to pull that backline attacker to the front, stun them for 5 seconds. You're going to wipe them out easy, and it's going to absolutely make some of these levels, especially in World 10, World 11, easy mode. So Red Velvet is absolutely essential for some of these harder levels. If you are struggling and you haven't tried Red Velvet, try Red Velvet. You will be surprised how much Red Velvet will reduce the amount of damage your team takes because Red Velvet's pulling that backline enemy, right? Or even pulling that healer. Sometimes they're running healers to the front and now they're no longer getting that heal, making it easier for you to wipe them out. Red Velvet is surprisingly good in story mode. Helped me beat so many levels, especially when Red Velvet first came out. I was stuck on a lot of levels in World 10, and then I got Red Velvet, and I just breezed through them because that backline damage dealer was no longer a problem. Rye Cookie's S tier. Rye Cookie is excellent against bosses. Rye Cookie is excellent in the Ryman comp. Big damage dealer when paired with Rye, can take out a huge mob. Essential in some of the tower levels if you're not fully leveled up and you need to do that extra bit of damage. Pair Rye with Almond and you'll be doing a ton of damage against the mobs. Plus Rye can do massive damage against the boss. So S tier. Snow Sugar is B tier. Snow Sugar does have that pretty decent damage boost that Snow Sugar got lately, and when Snow Sugar now puts out Snow King gets some of the buffs that Snow Sugar has. But the problem with Snow King is Snow King does damage so slowly that a lot of the enemy waves are killed before Snow King does that full damage. But that attack speed reduction is pretty nice and will be helpful against some mobs and some bosses. So I'm going to say B tier. Sorbet Shark, SS tier, because some of the later levels, Sorbet Shark will absolutely shred the enemy, right? Sorbet Shark does a percentage of their health, and I have not seen bigger damage come from other cookies than Sorbet Shark. Sorbet Shark hits for massive, massive damage in story mode. Plus, use Sorbet Shark against bosses. Sorbet Shark will shred bosses. That's why Sorbet Shark is SS tier. Sparkling Cookie is a decent healer in story mode. I'm going to say A because Sparkling Cookie only heals 2 cookies. But you do get that plus 25% crit damage, which is really nice. I'm going to say Squid Ink is S tier. Squid Ink does massive amounts of damage and vanishes, which allows Squid Ink to evade some damage that Squid Ink would normally take. So Squid Ink is at S tier just because Squid Ink does more damage than Espresso Cookie than Latte Cookie. But Squid Ink doesn't do much more than that, just a damage dealer. Strawberry Crepe is one of the best tanks in the game, and in some story mode levels, probably a better tank than Holly Berry. You get that plus 50% damage resist to 2 cookies with the lowest damage resist. Strawberry Crepe is absolutely awesome when it comes to that damage resist protection. Plus, another thing that's nice about Strawberry Crepe is normally you run cooldown toppings with damage resist, so you're getting about every 8 seconds that skill used, and that skill is going to push back the enemies, right? Allow your tanks to survive a little bit longer and does decent damage when Strawberry Crepe attacks. Tiger Lily, S tier. There's some levels where Tiger Lily is able to stun the enemies, especially in tower mode. That 3-second stun really allows your team to live longer and do more damage. Vamp is A tier. Vamp is absolutely incredible against the bosses, obviously, and there are certain levels where I was talking about Red Velvet in the backline cookies. Vamp can play that same role. Some of these backline cookies, if you have your Vamp strong enough, Vamp can just take out that backline cookie, and then you don't have to worry about that big damage that backline cookie is going to hit your team with. But why Red Velvet is up in SS tier and Vamp's in A tier? A lot of enemies, even my 5-star level 60 Vamp, Vamp will not fully destroy that backline enemy. Vamp will leave some health on that enemy, and because of that, they're still doing massive damage, where Red Velvet's always going to pull that enemy to the front, that 5-second stun, right? And prevent you from taking that massive damage. Werewolf Cookie, B tier, just like an okay tank. Lilac Cookie, and the A tier, another like cookie that's dependent on speed comp. If you're going to use Speed Robe and you're going to use Lilac Cookie and you're going to use Cookie like Pastry, and you're going to go for the all-out attack, Lilac Cookie is pretty good. Moon Rabbit Cookie is A tier. Moon Rabbit Cookie does have the ability to kind of vanish when using that skill. Plus, Moon Rabbit Cookie does have some healing when enemies are destroyed, which is nice. Mallow Cookie is A tier because Mallow Cookie, when paired with Twizzly Cookie and attack top ends, and with Scythe, and with just these different combinations that you can pair Mallow Cookie with, can hit really hard in those combinations. Not Mallow Cookie, but the cookies that you're going to give that crit boost to, it's going to allow them to hit hard. Now the problem with Mallow Cookie, why Mallow Cookie isn't in S tier, is because Mallow Cookie does that damage, that fire damage that happens over time, and a lot of mob fights don't last over time. They're like 1, 2, 3 seconds, you're dead or they're dead. So you're not going to get the full damage from Mallow Cookie, but Mallow Cookie's tanky and can give that crit bonus to your cookies, which is why Mallow Cookie's in A tier. Twizzly Cookie's in S tier. Twizzly Cookie's ability to destroy the HP shield, not really useful in story mode, but Twizzly Cookies can still do a ton of damage if you got a full crit build, or if you're running an attack build or mixed full to crit and attack, and you're running a Scythe, or you're running Twizzly with Mala. Twizzly can do a ton of damage, plus when Twizzly Cookie uses that skill, it kind of knocks back the enemy a little bit. So Twizzly Cookie is pretty good. Plus, Twizzly has the added bonus of hitting all of the enemies. It's not like Sorbet Shark, where Sorbet Shark can miss the enemies or only hit one line of enemies. Twizzly's going to hit them all. Gingerbrave is just B tier. Gingerbrave is great in a lot of arena comps, but in story mode, Gingerbrave's ability to knock back the enemies isn't that special. And outside of that knockback, Gingerbrave doesn't do anything that's above average. Pumpkin Pie, I'm going to put in SS tier. I do think Licorice is a little bit better because you get that plus 20% defense from Licorice on your whole team. So when you got those long-range fighters throwing bombs and kind of exploding on your team, you're going to get more protection from Licorice, but I still think SS tier for Pumpkin Pie because Pom Pom comes out in that tanky, in the front line, and it has huge tankiness, will live a long time, and does way more damage than the minions that Licorice gives you. Also, another benefit is Pumpkin Pie is typically built with full damage resist top ends, so Pumpkin Pie survives a little bit longer on your team, where Licorice is typically built with a full cooldown and damage resist substats. So we're talking about like damage resist of 20 to 25% on Licorice a lot of times, where we're going to have 30 to 40% damage resist on Pumpkin Pie, right? Pumpkin Pie is going to survive a lot longer. So I would say she's S tier as well as Licorice. You can use either or depending on the story mode level. Only thing to note, Pumpkin Pie is her ability to reduce the healing doesn't come into play as much as story mode because there's just not as much healing that comes from the opponents. So this is my tier list for PVE. Check it out, let me know what you think. Thanks for watching this video. Please do not forget to hit that like and subscribe button. I appreciate all the support.